right, folks. Hope you guys are having a good evening. Let's hop into it. Got Final Fantasy II booting up here, so I'll close it down for a minute. So, hope you guys are having a good evening. I know I'm hanging in there. Appreciate you guys joining me. Sorry, I was kind of planning on doing like a Monday, Thursday thing. And that didn't really happen last night because my daughter decided she wanted to hang out with me and have a dress-up party. And then play Cooking Mama. So that's what we did. And I have no idea. Actually, I know what happened is that she was helping her get to sleep and she reached over and put something in her mouth and I didn't see what it was. And she got real angry that I tried to get it out of her mouth, threw a fit. Turned out to be like some stale Cheerio or something. Got out of her mouth. Anyway, throwing a tantrum woke her all up, so she didn't want to go to sleep. So that was fun. But it's always good, I think, sometimes to think of the positive. By the way, the music that you're hearing, this is just kind of a rough cut of some music I've been working on. So I'll have more of that coming as I can get it done. These are all like super rough mixes, so I don't, part of me is kind of a perfectionist. I don't like to share what's going on prior to me really getting it done. But for the music stuff, I think I'll put out like the early mixes. A lot of the stuff, like even the sounds, I'll replace before I say it's done. Especially the solo parts, I'd rather play them in with Iwi. Right now, they're like a bunch of keyboard patches and stuff just to hold places. So anyway, if you like that music, that's my concept for February is like soundtrack to a game that doesn't exist. I was working on another one today. I'm way behind on everything, but that's how it is when you've got family crisis stuff going on. So anyway, let's play some Final Fantasy. I don't know. You guys want to? I don't know. Do we want any topical discussion? Idols. Actually, I'll do this one. So idols, concept idols specifically. I wrote a little short intro on my website. If anybody wants to read on my website. So, idols. We are familiar thinking of idols usually as like some physical object. Like, I don't know, here's a boar skull, right? So, this would be my idol. That, you call the idol the god. Like, this is the god. This is him. He is the god. And that's not really the way that people thought of idolatrous things, rather that the physical object had some sort of actual connection to a god or representation to a god that would then have some sort of transactional relationship with you. So pagan sacrifice and stuff wasn't about absolution of sin the way it was for Hebrews. Rather, it was a means by which you gained the favor of the gods. They enjoyed the smell of the burning meat or something if you're going with like classical religion. And in turn, the gods might grant you favor on the battlefield or something else like that. You performed a number of rituals to please the gods, keeping the Vestal Virgins, keeping the flame alive in Rome. These are more like what the actual religion is rather than what kind of modern people tend to think of, the mythology part as being the religion. That's not actually the religion. The religion's the practice. So how this translates into concepts. So I think that this is a thing that I see a lot in the West is idolatrous views of concepts. So one of them would be the idol of democracy. Another one might be the idol of economics, the idol of beauty, the idol of equality. These are things that people have what I would call a transactional relationship with. That is to say, they think that if you do things that are directed towards that, then they are good to do, and you will gain some kind of benefit from it. And like, for instance, when we look at the idol of democracy, people evoke democracy all the time as if democracy is some sort of unmitigated good, that if there's democracy present, that's good. And anything which reduces democracy is bad. You're treating democracy as if it's an idol that must be appeased. And bad things will happen. If you reduce democracy, bad things will happen. Everybody will be miserable, and it's going to be like some sort of totalitarian Nazi regime. Now, a lot of this is purely rhetoric because at least a portion of the Politic Americana doesn't really believe in democracy, which is why they ram their initiatives through with the courts against the will of the people and will subvert various processes in order to get their way, whether those are election processes or not. But they evoke the idol of democracy, and people say, oh, they're assaulting our democracy. Like, that's something super special. Then we go and we spend a bunch of blood trying to spread democracy around the world, killing foreigners and our own people in order to give these poor third world peasants some relief from the horrible despotic regimes under which they labored and give them democracy, and therefore they're free with democracy. Then you find out, hey, in a Muslim majority country, it turns out democracy means theocracy. You better be comfortable with that. People are suddenly, they're not very comfortable with, say, a country that has a very specific religion majority making that official. It's like, oh, they don't have freedom of religion or freedom of speech, but how could that happen with the democracies? Because democracy is just a form of government. There's nothing special about it, nor would you say that if something has bad outcomes, this is why we talk about like an unmitigated good and a good in and of itself, like it's the good itself versus a conditional good. If democracy gives good things to people, then that's good. And if it gives bad things to people, that's bad. Right? So it's only good according to whether it gives people what they actually want. The idol of economics, same idea. This is, so, by the way, both of these I find on all sides and all different parts of political discourse. You'll have evocations of democracy from like the neoconservatives, and you'll have it from the liberals as well. So it's not a single side of the coin at all. Economics, likewise. Economics tends to be very popular with the right. Everything's an economic argument. And if you do things which are good for the economy, then that's good. So if numbers go up, good. Numbers go down, bad. We must do things which are good for the economy, and then the economy will give us all wealth and prosperity and happiness. That's the kicker, is happiness. Our increase in wealth hasn't created more happiness. In fact, it's probably done the opposite. We have lots of people on antidepressants, but we've never been wealthier. What's the deal? Well, it's because we treat economics like an idol, and therefore any political decision is colored according to how it will economically affect people. You see this with some of the arguments, say, against tariffs, which I've gone over. So tariffs are bad because people will pay more for goods and services. Yeah, so it's an economic negative, but what should the argument actually be? It should be a moral argument. So we treat economic arguments as if they're moral arguments, and we treat them like an idol. If you just massage the economy correctly, if we do these things to make the economy go well, then everything will be good and everything will be better and everyone will be happier if we just do the right things for the economy. That's treating the economy like an idol, like this thing that if you burn incense to it and you do the right sacrifices to it, then it will bequeath you favor on the battlefield. And people, you need to take a step back and realize that these things are not, these are not good. These are not the good in and of itself. It's very hard to find the good itself. It's certainly not going to be doing things which produce a greater GDP. Even GDP, which is mostly measuring the velocity of money, is not something that is good or bad. If we decide to have a movement where all the women are going to stay home and have children and raise them, the GDP will go down because women will exit the workforce, people will reduce their lifestyle, they'll spend less money, they'll make less money. The economy will suffer if women exit the workforce. The economy. Society may benefit tremendously. People may be much happier. Not only that, but future generations will be better off because we're having children rather than hoping to import people to replace us. So economic arguments, again, it's a bit idolatrous there. So there's just some examples. Yeah, they view the economy as an end rather than a means to an end. Everything, it's a conditional good. Things which increase wealth are good because wealth makes life easier for us and happier and more entertainment and things like that. But only to a point, right? If that comes at the expense of meaning, if we export all the craftsman jobs and we have lots of shiny TVs and Marvel movies to entertain us, that does not for a satisfied soul make. Likewise, if we squeeze people so that they feel like they can never have children, no one can ever exit the workforce, then their happiness is reduced because they're missing like a fundamental part of human life. For most people, this is obviously not everyone needs to have children, right? But for a lot of people that would like to have children and then don't get to, that's like a reduction in happiness, or fooled into thinking that children are somehow bad. This is the thing that I get from lots of people that have decided that children are bad. It's like, I don't know how you're going to feel about that when you're 50 or 60. So, yeah, having children instead of worshiping careers. The people now idolizing democracy are the same ones who can't persuade people to vote for their ideas. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's true. It just shifts. It shifts over to rights too. There's the idol of rights, which is like, we can't interfere with somebody else's rights no matter what. It's like, well, there are conditions where rights are not really in play, like children in madmen. We don't give rights to children to own and bear arms. We don't give rights to madmen to, drive their cars on the road and crash them and kill people, right? So children and madmen don't have rights. Like they're not automatically afforded their rights. Rather, they're not allowed to fully utilize their rights. Same idea. So anyway, that's my little lecture for tonight. Let's play some games and have some fun. Hope you guys are doing great. Good to see Brian in the chat, the theologian. I loved he had a great Twitter thread on theology. It's like, for every retweet, I'll give you a hard theological truth, which are always the best ones. Okay, here we go. Interesting. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna have to. Sometimes you have to do this real quick, which is if you are. There it is. If you're using the video out on the PS Vita, sometimes you gotta like reload it in OBS in order to get it to go right. All right. It's just nice and loud. Get rid of all the line noise. There we go. All right, I think we're about to fight Mary Sue's brother. Let's fight him. There we go. All right. I do like this game has some cool boss music, but you don't get to hear it that often for some, just, here we go. General. I wonder if I think I can osmos him real quick. Let's find out. So we're in the tower. And I think after this, I didn't even get to do anything to him. All right. Let's heal up real quick. Lots of potions. I have like 1 million gil, so I don't even really know what to spend it on. I just bought a bunch of consumables and stuff. Like, why not? All right, here we go. Boss fight. I expected you come, Alex Jones. Lance. Oh yeah, the thread elicited expected flip-outs from unexpected places. Yeah, people get super angry whenever you mention God, and there's always like the fedora tippers who have to come in and be like, God doesn't exist because he's not good. That's one of my favorite non-arguments. Like, it's not an argument for the existence of God or not. Well, he's not meeting my moral standards, so you don't meet his moral standards. That's what's more important. Do you really think you could kill me? Stop, both of you. Why do you insist on fighting, Lance? Weak words from the weak. Do you know what rules the world? Power! Sheer power! The Imperial throne is mine. The weak cannot survive without the strong to control them. How many lives did the rebels throw away when they chose to oppose the Empire? Whoa! There's some cool music. The Emperor. Delusions of grandeur do not become you, Lance. Ooh, I think we have like a devil Emperor. Though I find the thought of you as Emperor quite deliciously absurd. It ends now. This world can have but one Emperor, and I am he. Unlimited power! You're alive! What are you? Not that it matters. The Empire is mine now, and I have no intention of handing it over. Ooh, blue fire. The Empire? I've no need for such trifles now. All the world shall fall by my hand, and the powers I gained in hell. And your blood will be the first to spill. Call the Wyvern. You can use it to escape. Ricard, what are you doing? Oh, this is, he's gonna sacrifice himself. Very noble after I leveled you up and gave you good equipment. So reload the save and make him naked. You may have a little trouble spilling the blood of Ricard Highwind, last of the dragoons. Pathetic insect. I will enjoy making you rue those words. May the spirits of the dragoons lend me the strength. Ricard! Any Emperor has to sound like Palpatine after Return of the Jedi. It is you that is mistaken about a great many things. Whoa! Look at this cool tower. Rad. Alright, now we get to fight another final level? Oh no, we're back in the other land. Alex Jones, what happened? You're the Dark Knight! You'd best start explaining. The Emperor has risen from hell. The Emperor has risen from hell! I don't know, I can't do an Alex Jones impression. Ricard died so we could escape. Joseph, Minwu, Sid, Ricard, all dead. I don't know how much more I can take. While the Emperor lives, more will die. Lance. Princess. Let Lance join us, please. The Dark Knight, a rebel. I leave the decision to you. Lance, let's fight the Emperor together, please. Marisu, Alex Jones. All right. Audience chamber is right this way. Okay. There, I still see like these chests that I can't get in different places. You know, I'm like, how do I get these chests? There's got to be like some kind of way I don't know about. Is this mirror? I can't do anything with it now, I guess. Just say something about integrating goblins and being in bed with a goblin. Yeah, Ian McDiarmid did show up for the final movie. I don't think he saved it, but it was more like just he helped it go to ridiculous heights at the end. Let's see what she has to say. Once the monsters of hell poured forth into the world, they entered using a path known as the Jade Passage. Alright. I've heard there is a place in Mysidia known by that name. The Emperor sold his soul to the devil. The Emperor sold his soul to the devil. I can't do, I don't remember what her accent is. Sold his soul to the devil. Let's see what, castle that appeared at the time of the Emperor's resurrection. It can only be Pandemonium, the fortress of the Lord of Hell. The myths and fairy tales of Kashuan speak of a small lake in Mysidia. It said that those who enter the lake are taken to hell. Alright, so we got the clues that we need, I think. It's Lance. Alright. What's your equipment like, Lance? You have a whopping 5 MP. I don't have any better sword here. Defender is better, of course. I lost my sun sword, though. I'm sure we'll get a better one. I mean, he needs a shield. Flame shield, diamond helm. Good stuff. Diamond gloves. I guess these are okay. Has David or chat seen Terrence Malick's masterpiece, Knight of Cups? I have not. Alright, let's go. There's our ship. We'll see if they updated. I'm not sure if they updated like any of the items. Probably stay at the end. Real quick. Palpatine needs his own movie. Nah. He really don't need to make any more Star Wars movies. There's a secret switch in the upper right-hand corner of the throne room. I thought I already figured that out. That was like for a different passage. I'm gonna try it again. Why not? Right, at first I was gonna see if they have any different weapons. I bet they do not. Nope. Doing those angry voices kind of hurt my voice. Should be a little bit more careful. Thirsty tonight. Might have to like pause and go get something to drink. There. Because like I figured out this switch, you know, this one is like easy. I probably don't need the items anyway. Maybe there's a hidden switch over here. Nope, I'm not finding anything. Probably doesn't matter. We don't really need the items. Like, the game's not that hard. So our guy is like... I'm guessing we're going to finish the game with Lance. So... we'll see on the video. It's kind of annoying to bring up the map, because you have to bring it up with, like, a select. There's apparently a lake that has, if you go into the center, it will take you to hell. Maybe it's this lake. Let's find out. We land here. Can't land in the swamp, so I have to land here. Alright, I don't think it's this lake. This is not a lake. This is ocean. I think you can get caught by monsters while in the air. This is not this one either. What's your take on the music industry's Y2K curse? Big 90s bands that fell off the map in 2000. I don't know. Live, Blur, Korn, etc. I think it was... do you prefer voiced or text for an RPG? I'll answer that. I actually... It just depends on how good the voices are. I think there's advantages to both. I don't know. I really am not a fan of most 90s music in general. I mean, even most metal to me is not very... You know, the 90s are not a high-quality period of music. They're pretty low quality, in my opinion. So the 90s, I consider generally a low-quality decade. Most of the music was poor in most aspects compared to decades previous. So poor musicianship for sure. Much more homogenous, actually, and in a lot of cases, worse production. The 2000s were noticeably worse production than the 90s. The 90s generally had good production still. Maybe not as quite as good as some of the stuff from the 80s, but generally still pretty good. It's just you had digital creeping in, but by the time you get to the mid-2000s, like, production is actively bad for most albums. Let me see here. What has... No idea where I need to go here. So, I don't know. I'm not sure why. I feel like the, you know, the end of the 90s going into the 2000s is the period where music became completely homogenized. And you basically couldn't do any music that didn't fit the standard mold. Oh, this might be it right here. There we go. You had a thing that happened where they deregulated the industry, and like most deregulations, they only deregulated part of the industry. So they removed the regulations surrounding how many stations a single entity could own. Of course, they didn't deregulate... You know, the FCC did not deregulate how many radio stations can exist in a given market. All of that's regulated to eliminate competition. A lot of people don't realize, like, if you don't like the local rock station, you actually can't start up a competing rock station. It's against the law. You will not be given a license by the FCC unless you're going to produce content that the market does not already have in it. So they didn't get rid of that. Instead, they made it so you could own as many as you want. So you had Clear Channel Communications buy up something like all of, you know, like 80% of radio stations got bought up by one company. It basically became, you know, a single owner situation. They created national playlists. Every radio station coast to coast was playing the same music. And so not only was it playing the same music, but that music also started to become more and more homogenized. So I think by the time you get to 2000, the sort of natural variety that might have existed between markets had just gone away completely. There was no more variation between markets. And so that got rid of a lot of bands that benefited from market diversity. So that's a lot of alt metal bands kind of disappeared. You had this renaissance of power metal that happened in the early 2000s that was unexpected, and basically because Dragon Force had a song on Guitar Hero that blew people away. Things like that. But yeah, I think the switch over to 2000, the 90s were a very homogenized decade anyway. I'm really not a fan of 90s music in general. There's some definite exceptions, but most of it is not up to snuff in my opinion. Whether it's like the pop music became really bad in the 90s. Like Britney Spears is so much worse than Michael Jackson. It's almost not even worth discussing. You know, the Backstreet Boys is so much worse than even Madonna was in the 80s. Madonna was still around in the 90s, but yeah, generally I felt like music took a huge step back in the 90s. Musicianship decreased. Of course, you had Nirvana, one of the worst popular bands of all time. And that's completely manufactured success for the most part. But in the 90s, I think by the time you got to the 2000s, I think it was just the fact that every radio station was owned by the same company. So everybody played the same music, which meant all the music had to sound the same, and it had to be even more like lowest common denominator. So I'm not a fan of Korn, but Korn definitely should have a niche. Like there should be people that are into Korn's music, and you know, that got abandoned. Likewise, Metallica, Megadeth, that stuff started to fall off the radio at the end of the 90s. And it was replaced by Nickelback, and not even Tool. Like Tool kind of disappeared off the radio by 2002. Yeah, it was all replaced by stuff like like very homogenized new rock, like new metal kind of stuff. Very boring. Consider it like a dark period. We'll just attack. Let's level up Aura a couple times here. Weird Al is great. Weird Al's a very talented guy. He found a niche and he hit it, and he's done great with it. And he's very talented. So, like, yeah, a lot of metal began in the 90s, but it was not popular. You never heard Rhapsody on the radio in the 90s. You know, the most metal thing you might have heard was, like, a couple of Megadeth songs. That's what you heard. You weren't hearing the good stuff. You really weren't. It's unfortunate. Yeah, Creed, Godsmack, etc. Yeah, those are the bands that came out, and Creed, Nickelback, Godsmack, Disturbed. Disturbed is very, dude. They're for noobs, man. It's noob metal. It's casual boy metal. That's the stuff that became popular. And then in like 2010, you started having like this fake ass bro metal trend start to emerge. 90s black metal was a thing that you never heard on the radio. You had to only get it through the underground. So the underground was really hot in the 90s, but that's mostly because like all the good shit was off the radio by then. There was just nothing good on the radio by like 1999. 1997, there's still lots of good stuff on the radio. I remember listening to lots of good songs in 1997. Cultural Ground Zero. There was still alt metal. You know, Typo Negative was still on the radio. You know, Metallica was still on the radio. All that stuff was still going on. Let's see if we can osmose these guys. I do not like... Okay, so Godsmack did an excellent soundtrack for Prince of Persia Warrior Within. I do not like that soundtrack, actually. I don't think it fits the game, and I don't like the songs. Now, I don't actually think Godsmack's a bad band. I just think they're not that good either. You know, I just don't think they're very good songwriters compared to all the other stuff that's out there. And, like, once you have heard a lot of metal, like, you really can't go back to listening to Godsmack. It's just too boring. We got a diamond mace down here somewhere. Where is it? Nope, it's worse than what I got. Lance, it's got... See, he could use that diamond mace. A little more attack. Same with hip-hop, funded from some very odd and very non-urban corners, yeah. The grunge fad was a top-down corporate imposition packaged as a populist revolt. Yes, exactly. They just, a bunch of executives just decided that that was going to be the next thing and kind of pulled this Seattle scene along with them. What's really funny, though, is they decided Nirvana was going to be like the hot ticket. And, you know, all of the grunge bands that really formed the sound in the 80s, just, they kind of, a lot of them kind of rose along with it. But, like, it's like Soundgarden wouldn't be popular if it weren't for Nirvana. And that's kind of sad because Soundgarden's a much better band. They did a lot more stuff, and their music's a lot better. I actually think their 90s albums are actually really good. They have 3 albums in the 90s. Actually, their 80s albums are okay. Most people are not going to like them. I like their 80s stuff too. But their 90s albums are actually pretty good. So their 3 90s albums are Bad Motor Finger, which is a very good kind of alt metal album. Super Unknown, which is their most popular album, but I think it's actually the worst of their 90s, mostly because it's got too many songs on it. This was the thing in the 90s, is like everything had too many songs. Everything had to have 20 different songs on it, and as many songs as would fit on a CD was for some reason that was the prevailing wisdom. CDs hold more than vinyls, so we should put more on them. Yeah, the problem with Super Unknown is that it sounds like 8 great tracks with like 6 B-sides. You know, B-sides have a certain sound. They're just extra songs. Oh, it's an extra little song. Some people are going to really like it. Most people are going to think it's okay. You put it on the backside of a 45. But by that time, there were no more 45s. They weren't selling vinyls anymore. So you just put all the B-sides on the album and called it good. So with Super Unknown, you have 8 good songs and like 6 mediocre songs. Down on the Upside, however, you have a much better portion. I think that one's 12 tracks. So it's like 10 good songs and 2 songs, you know. So Down on the Upside was a pretty good album from them. Yeah, Down on the Upside was a good swan song for them, I think. So, I don't know. I was like, 90s were kind of a step down, I think, in terms of the most popular stuff. But there was definitely great stuff. Like, Soundgarden was good. Yeah, I've heard they had a different name. I don't know if it was Nirvana at the beginning. They were one of the early bands on Sub Pop, though. Sub Pop was the indie label that signed Nirvana. And basically, they made a killing because I think Geffen bought out their contract for... what album was it? Nevermind. Nevermind. He wanted the baby. So they made a killing, you know. The 80s glam metal bands didn't lose popularity. They just got too expensive, victims of their own success. I've heard that one too. I think Razor had something like that. He has a new metal mythos on Anthem. If you don't know who Anthem is, they're a Japanese metal band. I do suggest listening to them if you've never heard them. They have a great classic sound, and they're very competent. So if you've never heard Anthem before, I like them. Yeah, if you haven't read the article by Steve, I think it's Steve Albini. I'm going to look it up real quick. It's called The Problem with the Music Industry. Or The Problem with Music. Here it is. I'm just going to link it in chat for you guys. Read it in your leisure time. Everybody should read this to know what's up with the way the music industry used to work. Oh, he's all shrunk. And asleep. So basically, Japan still has amazing music. But I think Japan is, like J-pop in particular, is so formulaic that it's like unlistenable once you know anything. But anyway, yeah, the idea of them being too good for too popular for their own good. So if you have an experienced popular band like Winger or someone, and they want to, they demand a certain amount of money because they could pull in a lot of people on tour, whereas you can basically push anything on the radio. Well, let's push Nirvana. Why Nirvana? Well, because they signed a worse record deal. You get to keep more of their money. And Steve Albini produced their record basically because he felt sorry for them. That was like his thing. He felt sorry for them because they were having to record this album they didn't really want to record. They were having to spend all the kinds of money on it. They were actually not making a ton of money, even though they were the most popular thing of the 90s. But basically the way it works is you get an advance of like $300,000, and so the band doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They spend a bunch of it on garbage. Like they throw a party, then they spend it on recording the album, and before you know it, the record company's insisting they spend a bunch of money hiring a super expensive producer. He takes a percentage. Their old record company takes a percentage. He's basically describing Nirvana, right? That Sub Pop got a couple percent off of the record. Everybody's getting a couple percent except for like Curtain Company, who are basically having to earn everything on the back end. And then they owe a portion of their like merchandise sales to the record company. Before you know it, they go on tour and they make less going on tour than they would have made working at 7-Eleven. It's like, but you got to drive around in a bus for a couple weeks. That was fun. You got to party like a rock star for a while, and so that made it seem like it was worth it. Because whoa, look at all these abyss worms. These guys are cute. So at the end of the whole thing, you've made the record company $1 million, but you owe them $20,000. So yeah, we can look at it. A&R Scouts. What I hate about recording. He's the producer of In Utero. He's the guy who produced In Utero. And if you can get a hold of his original mixes for like Heart-Shaped Box, they're much better than what came out. But the record company didn't like them, and so they had to go back and overdub them and do all kinds of other stuff to try to get a radio sound out of them, because Steve Albini made an alternative record with Nirvana. I think I did the wrong spell here. Yeah, I think I did Blizzard instead of Ultima. Oh well. Let's hit it. The A&R guy was full of great ideas. He even talked about using a named producer. Butch Vig is out of the question. He wants 100 G's and 3 points, but they can get Don Fleming for 30,000 plus 3 points. I'm going to read some of this. Even that's a little steep, so maybe they'll go with that guy who used to be in David Letterman's band. He only wants 3 points. Or they can just have anybody record it, like Wharton Tears maybe, cost you 5 or 10 grand, and have Andy Wallace remix it for 4 grand a track plus 2 points. There's a lot to think about. Well, they like this guy, they trust him. Besides, they already signed the deal memo. He must have been serious about wanting them to sign. They break the news to their current label, and the label manager says he wants them to succeed, so they have his blessing. He will need to be compensated, of course, for the remaining albums left on their contract, but he'll work it out with the label himself. Sub Pop made millions from selling off Nirvana, and Twin Tone hasn't done bad either. 50 grand for the Babes and 60 grand for the Poster Children, without having to sell a single additional record. It'll be something modest. The new label doesn't mind, so long as it's recoupable out of royalties. Well, they get their final contract, and it's not quite what they expected. They figure it's better safe than sorry, and they turn it over to a lawyer. Oh, our poor guy died here. There we go. Life. Let's bring him back to life. We can start killing some of these abyss worms quick. There we go. Before they kill my guys. I didn't save the game, so this may... If I get wiped out here, it's going to be like... game over. Uh-oh. We're dying. Bring him back. Yeah, this is one of the problems with like magic in this game is like it's just it's not quite powerful enough compared to say attacks. Well, he died again. That's lovely. Let's see here. They're still not sure about it, but the lawyer says he's seen lots of contracts and theirs is pretty good. They'll be getting a great royalty. 13%. Less a 10% packaging deduction. Wasn't it Buffalo Tom that was only getting 12% less 10? Whatever. I don't know if I'm going to survive these abyss worms. Bye-bye, Alex Jones. There we go. Well, Marisu and Sam probably leveled up a bit. I'll cure it up. There's a ton of mana on that. It's alright. Let's see if we can osmose some guys. I'll read some more here during the attack animations. The old label only wants 50 grand and no points. Hell, Sub Pop got 3 points when they let Nirvana go. They're signed for 4 years with options on each year for a total of over $1 million. That's a lot of money in any man's English. The first year's advance alone is $250,000. Just think about it, $250,000 just for being in a rock band. Manager thinks it's a great deal, especially the large advance. Besides, he knows a publishing company that will take the band on if they get signed, and even then, and give them an advance of 20 grand, so they'll be making that money too. The manager says publishing is pretty mysterious, and nobody really knows where all the money comes from, but the lawyer can look that contract over too. Hell, it's free money! Their booking agent is excited about the band signing to a major. He says that they can maybe average $1,000 or $2,000 a night from now on. That's enough to justify a 5-week tour, and with tour support, they can use a proper crew, buy some good equipment, and even a tour bus. Buses are pretty expensive, but if you figure in the price of hotel room for everybody in the band and crew, they're actually about the same cost. Some bands, like Therapy and Sloan and Stereolab, use buses on their tours even when they're getting paid only a couple $100 a night, and this tour should earn at least $1 grand or $2 every night. It'll be worth it. The band will be more comfortable and will play better. The agent says a band on a major label can get a merchandising company to pay them in advance on t-shirt sales. Ridiculous. There's a gold mine here. The lawyer should look over the merchandising contract just to be safe. He goes on like that. They get drunk at the signing party. Polaroids are taken and everybody looks thrilled. The label picks them up in a limo. They decide to go with the producer who used to be in Letterman's band. He had these technicians come in and tune the drums for them and tweak their amps and guitars. He had a guy bring in a slew of expensive old vintage microphones. Boy, were they warm. He even had a guy come in and check the phase of all the equipment in the control room. Boy, was he professional. He used a bunch of equipment on them, and by the end of it, they all agreed that it sounded pretty punchy, yet warm. Lance. Poor Lance. Down to 1 HP. Poor Lance. All right. All that hard work paid off. With the help of a video, the album went like hotcakes. They sold 250,000 copies. That's a gold record. These figures are representative. It's like Here's the math and explain just how effed they are. These figures are representative of amounts that appear in record contracts daily. There's no need to skew the figures to make the scenario look bad, since real life examples more than abound. Let's actually look at this, because this is really good to look at. Here we go. Let me we'll mute that real quick. Okay, so advance 250,000. Manager's cut 37,500. Legal fees 10,000. Recording budget 150,000. Producer's advance 50 grand. Studio fee 52.5. Drum amp and phase doctors 3 grand. Recording tape 8 grand. Equipment rental 5 grand. Cartage and transportation 5 grand. Lodgings while in studio 10 grand. Catering, mastering, tapes, copies, reference CDs, shipping tapes, miscellaneous expenses 2,000. Video budget 30 grand. Cameras, crew, processing and transfers, offline, online editing, catering, stage and construction, copies, couriers, transportation, director's fee, 3 grand, album artwork, 5 grand, promotional photo shoot and duplication, 2 grand. 5 grand is not out of the ordinary for album artwork, by the way. Band fund, 15 grand. New professional drum kit, 5,000. New fancy professional guitars, 2 times 3,000. New fancy professional guitar amp rigs, times 2, 4,000. New fancy potato-shaped bass guitar. New fancy rack of lights for the bass amp. Rehearsal space rental. Big block party for their friends, $500. Tour expenses, 50 grand. Tour gross income, 50,000. Look, they lost money for the tour. Agent's cut, manager's cut. So they're only made 50 grand, and then they still had to pay 15 grand to their agent and the manager. Merchandising advance, 20,000. Look at all these cuts. Record sales, 250,000 at $12 equals 3 million. Gross retail revenue. Royalty, 13% of 90% of retail, $351,000. Less the advance of $250,000, which they already spent. Producer's points, 3% less $50,000 advance, 40 grand. Promotional budget, $25,000. Recoupable buyout from previous label, $50,000. Net royalty, negative $14,000. Deficit from royalties. Manufacturing and distribution at $2.20 per record, $550,000. Gross profit, $710,000. This is how much each player got paid at the end of the game. Record company, $710,000. Producer, $90,000. Manager, $51,000. Studio, previous label, $50,000. Agent, lawyer, $12,000. Band members got $4,000 each. The band is now 1/4 of the way through its contract, has made the music industry more than $3 million richer, but is in the hole $14,000 on royalties. The band members have each earned about 1/3 as much as they would working at a 7-Eleven, but they got to ride in a tour bus for a month. The next album will be about the same, except that the record company will insist they spend more time and money on it. Since the previous one never recouped, the band will have no leverage and will oblige. The next tour will be about the same, except the merchandising advance will have already been paid, and the band, strangely enough, won't have earned any royalties from their t-shirts yet. Maybe the t-shirt guys figured out how to count money like the record company guys. So this is very typical for stuff in the 90s. So a lot of these 90s bands, they're like, man, they must be like millionaires. They probably not. They probably really didn't make that much money at all. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but that's how a lot of this ends up working, is that they, everything gets eaten up in the business. I know Brian is in the chat. This is the same thing he'll tell you about literary agents. Is that literary agents they basically take, you can't talk to a publisher. So you have to go through a literary agent. What is a literary agent? He's a person who talks to someone he went to school with, basically. It's literally somebody who just vets people for the publisher. So the agent talks to someone at the publishing house, and then they publish your book, and then you give the agent 15% of your royalties. But your royalties are not the total sales. A lot of people don't get this. They're like, oh yeah, I made, 250,000, that's wildly crazy. Somebody could sell 30,000 books and make like $2,000 royalties because they paid so many, their cut of each book was so small, and they had to pay so many people along the way in order to get that they actually don't make that much money selling a ton of books. If you were to sell 30,000 books independently, you'd make $30,000, you just have $30,000, because if you were selling your ebook at $2.99 with a 33% royalty, actually you'd make more than that. You'd make $60,000 just off that one book. So the members of TLC made the equivalent of $40,000 a year. Yeah, I did a video. There were these metal bands. There was a metal band from Australia that quit the business because they made $12,000 with a #1 record. They made $12,000, like total split between 4 dudes. Now keep this in mind. Book publishers are even more evil than record labels. Yes, I agree. So that's the thing. You know, that's what you got to look forward to with a lot of this stuff. You know, gatekeeping's a thing. Uh-oh, I forgot to heal this guy. Actually, let's do cure him. Basically, you got to pay everybody so that your book is in a bookstore somewhere. But most of the copies, just so you know how publishing works, a lot of people have no idea how publishing actually works. They're like, I see my book in a store. That means I've made it, you know, and people are buying my book. Not necessarily. So most of the books that get shipped to the bookstore don't sell. They never sell them. What do they do with them? Well, they take the jacket off of them and they send them back to the publisher, who destroys them and writes them off at a loss. This is one of the ways that it's really about selling paper and not really about selling books at all. The paper company always gets paid, and anytime the publishing company doesn't make money, they just write off destroying the books at a loss. It's really not a hard thing for them to do. I really got to check that door down there. I got a perfect follow-up to your article if you're okay with the link. Yeah, put it through. I'll approve it. Remember, links are blocked normally, and that's just a normal Google spam protection thing. If links are not blocked, you will find that you'll have nothing but spam bot links, like within very short amount of time. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't see any reason to go with a literary agent unless you just, for some reason, are just hell-bent on doing traditional publishing. Like, you just really want to do it for some reason. Like, I would actually consider personally doing traditional publishing at this point, because I already have a lot of independent books. So if a traditionally published book were out, I'd be okay letting it go and not making a lot of money on it. But it could improve the sales on all of my other books that they don't have control over. But that's precisely why they actually don't like to have people sign who have already have a large independent following, is that you're basically paying to boost the sales of something that you don't have any buy-in on, because you're gonna help their brand grow a little bit. Looping music is amazingly annoying. It's how it is, man. They only have one battle song in these old games. It gets better. Like, you get multiple battle songs in like later games. Ooh, we got to get rid of those abyss worms. Those things are naughty. Actually, we can do this. I bet you if we osmose them, like, they will be straight up crippled. I could put on some other music too. You guys are bored of this, because it does get a little bit old. Let's find something fun. Listen to the new Fellowship song, because there's a new one, I think. Is it here? Aha! Glory Days. Now we'll watch this. Take this one out. Turn that down. We'll just listen to some metal here. There we go. So I played these guys a little bit on stream the other day. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's an article I remember reading. I'm trying to remember who wrote it. It was like for a great deal about, you know, most people never even finish writing 3 traditionally published books. Thanks for the stream and conversation. Thanks for dropping by. Problem is not that it's bad as a composition, it sticks in your head. I was stuck humming the Banjo-Kazooie Horror Mansion song for a month once, yeah. I'm gonna listen to something different for a while. It's fine. Osmos just basically turns your characters into like infinite mana machines. It's great. I like this singer. He has a little bit of a warble, but I basically forgive it. Because he's pretty good. There we go. What are these? Great Marlboros. Smooth smoke, those Marlboros. Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to give up without a fight, I agree. And, like, you know, you see this... You're going to see this over and over again. I mean, I don't know if the now big 4 publishers will be able to stop their downward trajectory. Whoa. Gonna be a bunch of worms here. Oh, these guys are easy. It's Chimera Sphinx. Boom! Scissor jaws. Find some of those in the bathroom sometimes. Yeah, Lance needs some help. He needs to level up. He's like weak. I think my normal characters are just like pretty far past what the normal like level would be at this point. It's like I would level up Lance, but it's like it gets boring to do that, so I'm just gonna skip that. Ugh! Let's see if I can run away from these abyss worms. There we go. No reason to... I was running away from rock giants in the last one because like it just takes too long to kill them. Now this guy will kill. Yeah, Brian, if you link it, I'll see if I can approve it. Hopefully they're not just filtering it out automatically as spam. Yeah, the publishing industry is pretty nasty when you actually figure out how it works. A lot of people love the idea of being an author without really knowing what that means. So just for instance, let's say you want to get your book traditionally published. It's going to take years to get it out, literally years. Because they'll hire an editor who, in order to give themselves a reason to exist at the company, rather than working for a fee on a select manuscript, they're always going to suggest a bunch of changes, and so you're gonna have to change what made your book good to begin with, to the point where it's just a homogenous piece of garbage before you're able to finally get it out. It comes out years later, and then when it's not successful, they're going to blame the author. They'd be like, you didn't write a good enough book, that's why it's not successful. Okay, you didn't promote it. You know, those of us who are actually in the business know there's more to making a book successful than simply writing a book. Unfortunately, people have that same attitude when they go into indie publishing. They're like, I wrote my book, I published it, where's my money? There's more to it than that. The big 4 are locked into a business model based on distribution channels and entire jobs that haven't existed since the 80s. Yeah. Let's see if I could find another one of theirs. They have a, let's see, where's all of their, they have another one. It's not on here. They have a cover of like, I think a song from The Lion King that's pretty cool. Monster in a Box. Ooh, this one's cool. Maybe there's some like boss music here. Let's listen. Nah. King Not. Oh, it's a little different. Yeah, it's a little different this time. Yeah, and so then the book won't sell, and that's kind of the point. The point is to print the book and not really sell it. If it sells really good unexpectedly, you just claim credit for it and keep the money. If it doesn't sell, the bookstore ships the books back and you write it off, and then it makes the balance sheets work. So most of your books are going to end up getting just destroyed. They'll just get burned. They'll be literally burned. Isn't that fun to look forward to? You know, and I remember taking courses. I took a course from a guy named Steve Yarborough. Writes literary fiction. He was a professor. I read his books. I didn't think they were good, but he really got insulted when I said he aped Stephen King's tell the same story in 2 different time periods to make the book twice as long. He got a little bit upset about that. I couldn't stand being told how to write my own book outside of grammar. What do you think about 2 Steps from Hell? I don't know what that is. Super hype equals avoid. Yeah. At the very least, you're going to be setting yourself up for disappointment. After playing Cyberpunk, I'm starting to wonder about AAA games and whether all the innovation and fun will come from smaller developers. I think that's my expectation in general. Most of it is. If you think about AAA game development, there has been no progress in terms of game design since the PS3, since last gen. There's been none. You're just doing the same gameplay modes that you did, 10 years ago. Slightly better graphics. The graphics aren't even that much better. I mean, they're definitely better, but if you've been playing on PC, they're really not that much better. We've been playing in 1080p for 12 years at this point. Or 20 years at this point, I mean. Yeah, the reason people are like AAA games, where's the magic? Is they do put a lot of budget into graphics, and graphics are actually important. That's kind of how they sell the systems, though. Like, why would you buy a PlayStation 5 if not for better graphics? So it's really important that AAA games sell the idea of a more, and especially now that they're increasing the price of games, sell the idea of a $70 game with a new system, and first party, Sony definitely wants to push graphics because that's how they sell their machines. Look at the graphic capabilities of this new PlayStation 5. You stop and take a step back. It's why I love the Vita so much, which I'm playing this game on. The gameplay modes haven't developed that much, and honestly, I mean, if most of the games still look really good on the Vita, but they're not going to look as good as a PlayStation 4, obviously. Whoa. There's a guy here. I have all these, so I don't need them. There was a dude there. That's cool. I guess I was taking damage from that. All right. Not that door. Monsters. I let The Witcher 3 blind me. The game just feels soulless. The protagonist is no Geralt. The side quest is unfortunate. I like the original Witcher. But the original Witcher is an example, like, the graphics really are not very good. But the RPG and the systems, those are really enjoyable. So it makes for an overall good experience. You know, Dragon Age Origins, the graphics are not good by today's standards, but the gameplay is much better than any of the entries in the series. So it's like, which Dragon Age, you know, shouldn't I just play the new Dragon Age game if the gameplay is good? It's like the gameplay, they tossed out the good gameplay, wanting to make the gameplay more accessible. And so there hasn't been good gameplay since the original. You know, 2 had okay gameplay, and Inquisition had just terrible gameplay. Which is unfortunate. You know, Inquisition looked really good, didn't have a very good story, and just didn't really have good gameplay either. But it's Game of the Year. Game of the Year, everyone. It's Osmos. Who needs the mana? How to get Ultima level 10 here. I do what they pay me to either way. I also think RPGs are a dying genre because instead of a story, developers create a big, largely empty open world. That's a good point. Now, this is the thing about, you know, good games, really good games hit and then they influence things. And so Skyrim is a really good game, and it was a very big hit. It didn't do it. I think it did things kind of worse than the predecessors, if I'm being honest. You know, I think Morrowind and Oblivion are both better games, but it was full of stuff to do. When you walked out in the open world, there was something waiting for you around every corner. So then it's like everything needs to be a open world game. What's the problem with that? Well, Ripper. Oh, we got an extra rune axe. That's cool. Ice brand. Yoichi's bow. Where is this thing that we just got? Sorry. Look, gotta find this thing. Maybe it's not a weapon. I thought maybe it was a weapon. I guess not. Yeah, so they want to make every, you know, then there's this trend. Oh, we got to make Assassin's Creed open world. It's like it was open world enough from the original. You know, making an open world with nothing in it. This is why I didn't like Breath of the Wild. I'm like, this game is basically wandering through empty spaces to get to little mini puzzles. Now, that's fun in its own way, but it wears out quickly. When you're fighting the same monsters of the same difficulty level for the 9 millionth time, you just want to go to a dungeon and have something different happen. That's all. I think the open world craze started with Grand Theft Auto, but nobody could ever capture the liveliness. Well, I mean, Grand Theft Auto, I wouldn't even really call it an open world game. And I know it seems that way. I guess it is. You know, I guess it qualifies. But it had really good gameplay, and you always were just going from a place to a place. Like, you could stop and goof off, but you always had something to do. And the world was largely, it wasn't that it was just empty, just most of the things were irrelevant to what you were doing. You know. Oh wait, and we're gonna Osmos. Bergeson has also published full albums under his own name. American Dream, 7, and Humanity is most recent. It's fantastic. Oh, 2 Steps are 2 composers, really. Thomas, okay. No, I don't really know anything about him. I think that the open world craze really exploded, though, with, like, after Skyrim, people were like, we gotta try to do more stuff like Skyrim. Yeah, but you don't have, like, a huge lore-rich world full of caves to explore. You didn't put in that much effort. You know, Far Cry was one. I mean, like, Far Cry 3 really became open world. But I really mostly like Far Cry Blood Dragon. You know? Yeah, Grand Theft Auto's world had stuff to do and people who reacted to you and who were just doing their thing until you showed up. Skyrim was... Skyrim was great. Skyrim, it's a great game. It's an amazing game. It's full of stuff. And I think Skyrim is very casual friendly because it will hold your hand and tell you where to go for lots of things. Morrowind, not so much. Morrowind, you really have to do a lot of self-exploration. But that's why I think Morrowind ends up being, you know, over the long run, probably a better game. I'm not crazy about the... I'm not crazy about the gameplay of Morrowind. It just doesn't feel quite as good as, you know, the real deal. It doesn't feel quite as good as the later ones. So we'll lower her attack a bit, but we should give her like a... give her something there. And then move her up so she can get some health. Oh. Put it in the Aegis shield. Where is it? There it is. Shield that affords protection against special attacks. That's pretty good. Okay. Alright. Let's see what's in this one. Dragon armor. Sweet. He already has it. That dragon armor. It just feels like the competency level in game designers is declining too. Lots of SJWs coming into the field, lots of soft millennial types that just do instead of dreaming up innovation. I wouldn't blame it totally on the developers. I mean, a lot of this stuff, the more corporatized it gets, the more they're going to push you to do a bland corporate product, because that's what they do. Bland corporate products are their thing. They want to have a guaranteed return, so they're going to tell you to do what's hot, not take risks. But I mean, BioWare has that problem too. Like, I understand that you need to make sure you have the right stats to even land a hit, but that was just such a strange direction. I agree, yeah. It's really annoying at the beginning of the game, and then it gets a lot better later. So later on in the game, it becomes a lot more tolerable because you're able to hit things. But when you start the game, like, my advice if you're playing Morrowind is actually have a character that stacks the skills. You know, for the most part. I did that last time I played Morrowind on stream. I made a character that, like, didn't do that totally. I'm like, you know, it'll be stronger, but it's going to suck early on. But you get that summon Daedric sword and forget about it, man. You can rock people's world without having to have a ton of skill. Mega Parasite. Morrowind plays like a MUD, multi-user dungeon, yeah, like Aardwolf. Yeah, it's kind of like that, but like, you know, graphical, which is fun. Yes, we're at Ultima level 10. Rad. Well, I mean, you play World of Warcraft has, like, you know, you have to have a dagger skill to hit with your dagger or whatever it is. That's just how it is. It just people get. I want to explore a little bit more and see if there's more. Should I explore more? Get out of here, abyss worms. Did we find all the... There's one more. Ooh. Boss music. Hi, Paul. This guy's pretty resistant. Let's see what we can see if we can osmose him. Take his magic. Give me that magic. Remember in Skyrim, leaving the first settlement, going to meet the Jarl in Edoras-looking town. Never made it there. Had to explore. Went back to the story 90 levels later. Yeah. You know, I actually never finished the, like the Civil War thing. I like never really finished it because, until like way later. They got like logged on and just finally did the Civil War because it was just like, it was the distraction. I wanted to just do my own thing. Yeah, this boss music's really good. Oh no! Later, Lance. I wonder if Frost would be good in him. Like Blizzard. Let's try Blizzard. Get up, Lance! Yeah, 90s video games had memorable music. I think there's a ton of amazing music from every era. Like, there's a lot of great music that's out there now. You know, I like Jeremy Soul's music, and wow, that did a lot of damage. Let's hit him with that. I love the music. I mean, I still like Final Fantasy music. I love the music of Final Fantasy 13. Actually, I thought it had an amazing soundtrack. It's amazing to me with the 90s, like how much they did with how little they had. Like the fact that it was MIDI music for the most part is pretty like mind blowing. What they did with that. I mean, to me, it's even crazier in the 80s. But the 90s, they had more voices to work with. It just ended up being that much better. Do you think it's too late to learn a trade like plumbing or air conditioning repair at 38 years old? Probably not. But like Brian says, you probably have multiple skills that you could use. You just have to think about them. A lot of times people they don't think about what they're good at and how they can provide that as a service to other people and then therefore make money. We get kind of trapped in the slave mentality where it's like we have to have an employer that gives us money for our time. We sell our time to people rather than selling either a service or a product. I mean, this is what I like about books, is that I write the book once and I can sell it for the rest of my life. So even if I don't make a lot of money off a book the first month I write it, first year I write it, you know, I had someone ask like, how much do you make per hour? And it's like, that doesn't compute. It's like, does not compute, because I'm still making money on all the hours I worked to write my first book. You know, that's still giving me money. Because It's giving me money, first of all, because eventually a book came out, but also it's giving me money because I write a new book and then that sells and that makes me money. So, you know, there's tons of ways to make money that people often don't think about. So yeah, you can get into air conditioning repair or something like that. You might already have another skill that you just aren't aware of can be leveraged to make money. Not a huge fan of Oblivion and Skyrim, but I'll try Elder Scrolls 6. I mean, I'm sure I'll play it because it's Elder Scrolls and I love those games. The way ahead leads to a forsaken place. It exists for those who may one day tread its darkened path. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Treasure. Well, high potion. It's better than nothing. Protect ring. A ring affording protection against instant death. I haven't seen any monsters like casting death, though. And having it land. Watch this. Can we flee these guys? 5 of these guys? Oh. Run away. Run away! Look at this. I don't know if level 10 is the highest level or not. Donkey Kong Country 2 had great music, yeah. I like the music of Chrono Trigger. I love Final Fantasy VI's music. That's still like one of my favorite soundtracks ever. Just amazing what they did with that. 90s stuff. I mean, a lot of the stuff in the PlayStation era was great too. You know, I love the soundtrack of Final Fantasy IX in particular. I really loved. It's a MIDI soundtrack basically, but it sounds great. That's one that if they did like an HD remaster, it's like gotta redo that one. Gotta redo that soundtrack with like actual instruments because it's pretty awesome soundtrack. Chrono Cross. What is that? I thought it had a different name in the US. I might be thinking of something else. Chrono Trigger. I think Chrono Trigger is Chrono Cross. Which one is which? Fallout 76. I mean, sooner or later you're gonna roll the dice and come up with Snake Eyes. People are like, you know, people say Fallout 76 is bad, but at least they tried something. Xenogears, yeah. Xenogears is good too. A lot of those were great. I loved the some of my favorite 90s game soundtracks is Symphony of the Night, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and the one that came before it. This is the Castle of Hell, Pandemonium. We'll save it there for tonight, guys. And the one that came before it, Dracula X Rondo of Blood. Both of those are really awesome. If you haven't played both of them. There used to be basically, you can't properly emulate Rondo of Blood. Ooh, I like this music. Some different music here. You can't properly emulate Rondo of Blood because of some reason. But I had like a custom version of it that I could play back in the day on emulation because it's like a PC Engine CD game. It's just hard to run it. But that one's really good as well. And that's CD audio, same thing with Symphony of the Night. It's just great stuff. Favorite 90s consoles? And they're all good. A lot of modern games feel lacking when it comes to memorable music. A lot of big orchestral scores with lots of instruments, but few of those have tunes that stick with you. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times if you have American composers, they just kind of make, I don't know what to call it, soundtrack music, which is just, it's just, I call it a dissonant. It's just dissonance. They're like, here's dissonance. And it's like, it's completely forgettable. I mean, it works maybe in a movie for that moment, but it doesn't leave you with any kind of memorable feelings about it. It's not a necessarily a bad thing. I think the N64 was probably like, I think it's Nintendo's worst console besides the Virtual Boy. It just had so few games. They had some good games. The aesthetic drop-off was really bad. I'm a big fan of the Saturn and the library on the Sega Saturn. I felt like there were some great games on the Sega Saturn. But it wasn't as successful in the US maybe as it ought to have been. But at that point, they had come out with so many different little expensive consoles. Like Sega CD, and then Sega 32X, and then they came out with one that was called the CDX that did everything. Then there was like the Nomad, and then they came out with the Saturn. And by the time the Saturn hit, people were like, "Are you going to come out with another console next year? I want to just buy one console." So I don't know. I think the best library from the 90s is probably the PS1. I don't know. No, probably Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo's a 90s one. I think Super Nintendo has the best library of any 90s console, and probably one of the best game libraries of all time. There are so many good games on the Super Nintendo where the gameplay really holds up to today, and the aesthetics hold up. Everything holds up. It's really pretty phenomenal. The aesthetics in the PS1 era were very, very muddy and ugly in a lot of cases. Early 3D is really bad looking on most games. Most games did not age well at all. That's the truth. So if you're looking at games that people are playing for 90s stuff that's good, you're going to find more good games on the Super Nintendo than you are on the PlayStation that are going to hold up as far as quality goes, and especially visuals go. So anyway, I have got to go because it's 1 o'clock. So I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great one, and I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you want to see and what you want to hear in the future. And I'll let you hear some of this awesome music, I guess, on our way out. No, I'll let you hear some of mine. I'm going to turn that off. I'll let you hear some of mine instead. How about that? Here's some more of this rough track. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Have a great one.